and Senate are expected to release their budgets next week. Given that the budget details remain unknown, are you able to provide us with any insight on what you might expect to see in the upcoming release?
Sure. One of the things I'd want to start with is to recognize that in the years that I've been down here, we have never had a budget process that has included as many members of our caucus as we have this year. In fact, there are 62 of us in the House Democratic Caucus, and I think there is over 37 or 38 who have been directly involved in the budget development process. We have 3 appropriations committees, one for Health and Human Services, one for Education, and one for General Government. And that has been the first filter through which we've passed all of the budget proposals. And then ultimately it'll be adopted by the Ways and Means Committee. So I want to preface it by saying there's never been more involvement of the caucus members in the development of this budget. We will see the budget next week, and it's not going to be pretty. We have virtually a $9 billion budget deficit to close. And we are certainly going to try and present a budget for people to react to that is balanced by simply cutting the budget. We're going to look for every opportunity to literally to slash this budget in ways it has probably never been cut before. My own priorities are certainly to preserve as best we can K-12 education funding, and services for the most vulnerable among us. But that does not mean that those areas won't be cut as well. So cutting $9 billion out of a budget of 30 plus billion, when 55% of that 30 or $32 billion cannot be touched because it's mandated services for K-12 caseloads, foster care, and medical expenses. That leaves us $9 billion to cut out of the other 45. And that's going to be very difficult to do. So stay tuned out there. It's not going to be fun.
As a member of the Finance Committee, would you please talk about what you're doing to help local governments weather Washington's projected multi-billion-dollar budget shortfall?
The sad reality is in the economic downturn that we have right now, it is not just the state of Washington and state government that's struggling. Every level of government is facing the same kinds of budget struggles. We recognize that every city and every county in the state of Washington is cutting their budgets, laying off essential workers, cutting back on services their citizens depend on, whether it's public health, adult day health, fire services, parks, recreation, you name it. Every government in the state is finding ways to, having to find ways to cut those. So, the state has looked at a package of revenue options and reorganizations of functions. Sounds a little bureaucratic, but in point of fact, what we're trying to do is to put together a package of revenue options for local governments. For example, giving counties the opportunity or the option of imposing a utility tax in the unincorporated areas. Cities do that now. So you have kind of an unfair situation where somebody who's living on a county-city border on one side of the street pays a utility tax, those on the other side don't. So we are looking at the possibility of giving counties that option. They would then have to choose to do that. They may or may not. It would be up to their governing bodies. We're also trying to solve the annexation problems that counties face, because that will take care of about a third of King counties. So a number of options there to give them packages that they can choose at the local level. They're not mandated. They're up to them to choose. So with all of those put together, we hope we can weather this storm at least for the next 2 to 4 years and hope that things turn around for the better. We just simply have to be creative, and at the end of the day, governmental services aren't going to look like they did last year.